All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today for this BankOn Washington Coffee Hour Plus. We just couldn't make it all fit into 1 hour, so it's the Coffee Hour Plus. You'll get extra time to drink your coffee this morning if you haven't already. So today we are hosting the community conversations, welcoming justice-involved individuals and communities into financial institutions. So thank you all for being here with us today. We have a really exciting lineup. My name is Jennifer Quiroz, and I'm the Executive Director of the Financial Empowerment Network. We are going to start off with introductions. And you know, there's a love-hate relationship with introductions on Zoom, and I know that, but what I would really like to do is for us to have the opportunity to get to know who's in the room as we're having these conversations today. So the first thing I will ask is if you're able to turn on your camera, that is wonderful, because then we can see people instead of these anonymous black boxes, which can be really hard to speak to. So if you're able to turn on your camera, that's great. And I understand sometimes folks aren't able to, and that's fine too. And then to keep the introductions moving so that we don't get bogged down, I'm gonna ask folks to do one breath introduction. So your name, your pronouns, your organization and role. So no more than what you can fit into one breath. And then if you have any announcements on behalf of your organization or where you're joining us from today, then you can take a second breath and share those announcements with us, because I also think this is a great opportunity for folks to learn more about what's happening, you know, in other organizations. So I am going to attempt to go alphabetically through the participant list, so that way you see who's coming and you know when your name is coming up. So I'm not just kind of calling on people. So I'll just start at the top. Adam.
Hi, Adam Stein. I use he, him pronouns, and I work at Columbia Bank. I'm their CRA officer. And one of the big things we got actually right now is an announced merger with Umpqua Bank. So
great. Thank you, Adam. Alexandra.
Hi, my name is Alex. I am she, her pronouns, and I work for First Fed in Port Angeles, Washington. I am a customer experience and product strategy specialist.
Great, thanks, Alex. Anthony.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Anthony Powers. I am the reentry director at the Seattle Clemency Project. And I would like to make a quick announcement. Just got news this morning that the project that I've been working on at Microsoft, every year they do a hackathon where they bring all the Microsoft employees together to do different projects, and our project came in first place for justice reform.
That's great. Congratulations, Anthony. That's awesome. Becky.
I am Becky House with the American Financial Solutions, and I think I'm going to leave what's coming up to Andrea Alexander, who should have gone before me because she's an A. So anyway, I'm going to leave that to her. Thank you.
I don't see her on the list yet.
Oh, you know why? She's got a number, 767147 instead. I don't know why it's a number.
I'm on a different computer. Hi, Jennifer. This is Andrea Alexander. So it doesn't have my name on here. I'm using a different computer because I'm multitasking, but I'm Andrea Alexander. I'm with the Northwest Native Asset Building Coalition and under the Tribal Technology nonprofit. We're working right now with Becky House. We have trainings, Native Financial Empowerment Recovery training every Tuesday from 11 to 1. We've had 2. They're awesome. Our people love them. They love Becky's training. It's been really helpful. And we look forward to building relationships with allies here for the Native community throughout the state of Washington. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Thank you, Andrea. I appreciate that. I wasn't even looking at the people on the screen. I was so busy looking at the list. So thank you, Becky, for getting me back on track. The alphabet is hard. Okay, Brittany.
Hi, I'm Brittany Elder. My pronouns are she, her, and I am the Community Engagement Relationship Manager at Jpmorgan Chase.
Great, thank you, Brittany. Colleen.
Good morning, I'm Colleen Temple. My pronouns are she, her. I'm with Coastal Community Bank and a new position for our bank as a Community Engagement Manager. And this is my first time joining y'all.
Welcome, glad to have you here. Thanks for joining today. Deanne.
Good morning. This is my first time joining too. I'm super excited. My name's Deanne Gough. My pronouns are she, her, and I work for First Security Bank as an SVP of Retail Operations and Support.
Great, thank you, Deanne. Donna. Donna, is that you that's also calling in on the phone number? I suspect.
It is her. I'm not sure if it, sometimes she has difficulty with the sound, but I will tell you that that is Donna Lloyds, and she is one of our most tenured counselors. She does housing, student loan, counseling for all different kinds of, special populations. And she is amazing, and she works for American Financial Solutions. So we're lucky to have her.
Thank you for that great introduction, Donna. If you're able to unmute and would like to say anything else, please feel free. Thanks for being here today. Elizabeth.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Escobar, she, her, aya pronouns. I am the Chief Business Officer at Express Credit Union. Happy to be here.
Great. Emily.
Hi, Emily Hearn. Not sure if you noticed in the chat, but we got into a bit of a family fun session last night, and I accidentally got kicked in the face, so I will not be turning on my camera. But I, she, her pronouns, and I'm the program coordinator for the Asset Building Coalition of Mason County. And we actually have a Money 101 personal financial well-being course coming up in January.
Great. Thanks so much for being here. Grady.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Grady Mitchell. I go by he, him pronouns. I'm a participant / student in the financial class sponsored by Seattle Clemency Project. Also do pro bono work for an organization called Roots of Success. I'm the Corrections and Reentry Program Director.
Great. Thanks for being here today, Grady. Mandy.
Hey, good morning. My name is Mandy Lee. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the director for Centers for Strong Families, model of social services support systems operated by United Way of Pierce County. And I would turn on my camera, but I just got my hair done, and it is very weird.
Well, that makes me actually want to see it more, but thank you for joining us, Mandy. Paige.
Hi, I'll keep my camera off for the most part. Our Wi-Fi has been pretty spotty in the office, but my name is Paige and I use she, her pronouns. I work for an organization called World Relief, which is a refugee and immigrant services agency. And so I'm here just to learn more from all the different financial institutions. I've been connecting with Becky actually quite a bit to help provide services for our participants. So thank you so much for having me.
Jennifer, you're muted. Uh-oh.
Sorry about that. Rachel.
Hi, Rachel McHugh. I use neutral and feminine pronouns, and I'm the BankOn Pierce County Fellow and coordinator of the Pierce County Asset Building Coalition with Sound Outreach.
All right, thank you. Ryan.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Ryan Davis. I use he, him pronouns. I am the asset building coordinator for community action of Skagit County, and I sit as the chair of the Skagit Asset Building Coalition. I don't think we have any announcements at the moment, but excited to be here.
Great. Carla.
Good morning, everyone. Carla Strickland. I'm with the community engagement team at Jpmorgan Chase. Happy to be here. And pronouns she, her, hers.
Great. And Tiffany.
Sorry about that. I am doing too many things at once. My name is Tiffany Kelly Gray. I am the Financial Capability Director at Northwest Access Fund. I use she, her pronouns, and I am in our company, or not-for-profit, not company, excuse me, is dedicated to lending and financial coaching for people with disabilities. Happy to be here.
Great, welcome.
Thank you.
All right, I think we got everyone. If we skipped anyone, please speak up. Did everyone introduce themselves? I think so. All right. So, I want to start out with a few guidelines for our conversation today. And the first thing I want to say is that, today our topic is justice-involved individuals. And I want to acknowledge that statistics tell us that there are people here in the room who have been involved in the justice system or who have close family members or friends who have. So I want to ground this conversation from a place of community care and really that we are talking about us, we are talking about our community, our people. And so that's where we're coming from today. We also really want this to be an interactive session. We want all of you to be able to think about your own work context, about what's working well, and also what maybe isn't working well. And that's a really hard conversation to have publicly, to admit the places where we need improvement. So I just want, but we're all here to learn, right? So I ask you to lean into that and stick with the conversation, because I really see this as a learning community. And I don't mean just today, this workshop, but really the BankOn Washington community. I want us to be a conversation that, or a culture that learns together across Washington state. So a few things to help facilitate that. The first is to stay engaged and listen to understand. So I said this a couple times, but if you're able to turn on your camera, that's great. If not, I also understand, but it's helpful to engage in these conversations when we can see each other, since we can't be in the same room together. Also, speak your truth. So speak from your own experience, and also be accountable for the impact of your words. So we want to assume positive intent, but also we want to be accountable for the way that what we say may impact other people. I want to encourage you to experience some discomfort, because human beings only grow and learn through discomfort. So I hope that you'll take some risks today, push yourself a little bit. And I also want to say, if you notice that you are feeling some discomfort, if you're feeling uncomfortable, or you're feeling that internal pushback about something that you're hearing, I would ask that you pause and get curious about that. Like, why are you pushing back? Why are you having that reaction? What are those emotions that are coming up telling you? I like to use the what if question to help me think about things differently. So when I'm feeling that internal reaction, to pause and say, okay, well, what if the thing that this person is saying is actually true? And that helps to frame it differently and think about things differently. And then the last thing, just expect and accept non-closure. So in the hour and 45 minutes we have today, we are not going to solve all of the banking issues for everyone involved in the justice system. But I do hope that you're able to take something with you today that you can use going forward. So that is our goal. Really quickly, I want to talk about BankOn, and I'm glad because we have a couple new folks here today that have not been to BankOn events before, so I'm glad I included this. For those of you that are not familiar, BankOn is a national movement to connect and underbanked folks to accessible, affordable, and safe accounts. So why does that matter? Why do folks need bank accounts? The average person without an account will spend $40,000 over their lifetime in fees just to manage their own money. And I just heard this from the Brookings Institution, that in the first round of stimulus funds in 2020, just that first of the three, $66 million went to check cashers. So that's money that folks could have used for food, rent, childcare, utilities, all those things that are much more important to individuals than funding the check cashers. And so BankOn accounts were created. There's a national set of standards that were really designed with consumers in mind. They're meant to be low barrier. So for example, there are low opening deposits, low minimum balance requirements, low or no monthly fees, no overdrafts are allowed, and there are bill pay and online access requirements, and then also access to customer service. Because if folks are new to having an account, they may have questions, and so they need to be able to get those questions answered. We have, the network is the BankOn Washington lead. We have the support of 4 fantastic BankOn co-chairs, 2 of whom are here today. Becky House and Adam Stein are both co-chairs, along with Brenda Snyder from the Washington Treasurer's Office and Thashari Gunaratne from Jpmorgan Chase. And we are very excited. We have 12 BankOn certified accounts offered in Washington State that meet those national standards. There are over 160 accounts now nationwide, and that number keeps growing. So if your financial institution does not have a certified account, please reach out. I'm happy to talk more about that. And then on the other side of it, if you have clients that could benefit from access to a BankOn account, check out our website, bankonwashington.org/accounts. Or if you'd like to connect with folks at a particular financial institution, I'm happy to make those connections for you as well. So please just let me know. Okay, and the last thing that I'm going to say before I hand this over is, why is all of this important? Why are we having this conversation today? So the first thing is, as I have, some of you, if you're new today, you may not know this, but I'm fairly new to this role as well. I just started in July. And as I've been meeting with partners over the last 6 months, I am hearing that folks are really hungry for opportunities to convene and connect with each other, with other providers, other people in this space. The network has shared a lot of content, but folks are really looking to have conversations. So that's part of why we've designed this in this way today. Financial inclusion matters. Folks need access to appropriate products and services that work for them. So I think part of our role as the lead is to help move that conversation forward about what that actually looks like in practice. As you'll hear some more about, the network has partnered with Seattle Clemency Project over the last year. We're working on a train the trainer model with some financial education classes. And so it's something that we have been thinking a lot about over this last year as well. And I look at the BankOn Washington platform as more than just accounts, but really as a way to address and reduce systemic barriers that folks experience who've been historically marginalized from financial institutions. So I took this directly from the Seattle Clemency Project website, because I just think it so beautifully encapsulates how we want to ground this conversation today, and I'm going to read it. We firmly believe in the power of redemption, and that a healthy justice system must recognize and reward rehabilitation. We work with individuals who, despite having been sent a message by the criminal legal system that they were not capable of reform, have grown, matured, and healed. We believe all individuals have the capacity to change, and that individuals who are serving sentences that no longer serve a valid purpose deserve a voice and a second chance. And I would say that all folks who've been involved in the justice system deserve a voice and a second chance. And so I thank Seattle Clemency Project for your work in this area and for really bringing the network along with you in that work. And with that, oh, and here's their website. And with that, I am going to turn it over to Becky and Anthony. So thank you, Becky and Anthony.
All right, thank you, Jennifer. Before we get to our PowerPoint, I'm going to touch on a few things. So in Washington State alone, just in the last 20 years, we've had over 500,000 convicted felons. So if you go back even further, it really shows the magnitude, right? And I've done a lot of work with state government, and I've even been in some high-level meetings where I bring out that stat and I talk about how it's socially unacceptable, even now with criminal justice reform being big. It's socially unacceptable in large part for people to talk about their loved one who has been justice involved or themselves being justice involved. And when I bring it out like that, I've had a lot of people who, you know, publicly known, they'll be like, yeah, half of my family's been you know, but until we make that conversation socially acceptable, it's difficult to really bring solutions on a real level because people are embarrassed to talk about that. And if you can't talk about something as simple as having a loved one who's justice involved or yourselves, then it's that much harder, that much more difficult to actually bring the reforms that we need to bring. You know, when they went through this mass incarceration push back in the 1980s and 90s, they put things in place in every asset of the American lifestyle. So even if it wasn't somebody just as involved, they put all the barriers in place to make sure either it was more difficult for somebody to get out of prison, or once they did get out, it was more difficult for individuals to acclimate to society. So it's harder to get involved in the financial system. It's harder to open a bank account. It's harder to get a job. It's harder to get an apartment. So you're more likely to fail and go back to prison, which they were trying to ramp up with the mass incarceration and invested in private prisons, et cetera. So now when we're talking about these reforms, and you hear a lot of people talking about criminal justice reform, right? Which I led my intro earlier today, talking about how my project at Microsoft won first place, and it's actually a criminal justice reform project. But you hear people talk about criminal justice reform, what they're really talking about is mass decarceration. What hasn't been in the news is the effort has already been under place to where they're already cutting the Washington prison system in half. So nobody knew. There's been thousands of people getting out, and we haven't had spikes of crime and everything else, right? But you know, they used those scare tactics in the past, and people are getting out, and they're doing their best to, you know, get on their feet, get set up in, you know, get bank accounts and everything else, and get a job, and you know, and some of these barriers are still in place, but some of the reforms have helped people to acclimate back into society. But the point is, the reforms are already happening, so those scare tactics that we heard in the past, they're not playing out. They're not coming to fruition. There's already been, the prison system has already been reduced by thousands of people, and we're not seeing some big old spikes. So with that said, we're trying to spread the conversation everywhere in society to where we can break down some of those barriers, because just like they put all those things in place, it's not just changing how much time somebody gets for a crime, it's changing our entire system to acknowledge the fact that people are human beings. One thing to highlight this is victims, right? You hear victims, you think somebody who's been done wrong by a crime. True. But you never think of the fact that sometimes people in prison were the victims of a different crime, right? So, I mean, you don't make this correlation. It's like everything isn't so cookie cutter, you know, and so when we start acknowledging the fact that people are human beings, people do change, people do reform, then we could start having more individuals who have been just involved be part of the solution and be part of society. When it's us versus them, it's easier for somebody to be a criminal. When they actually feel a part of society, then it's more difficult for them, because it's harder to victimize somebody when you have that relation to that person. At least that's what I've seen, and I've seen a lot of people be successful with that. I myself was justice involved. I was incarcerated when I was 16 years old. I did 26 years in prison. I've been out not even 2.5 years, but I'm a homeowner, business owner. I work for a nonprofit, executive director of another nonprofit. I mean, I've been doing a lot of major work, but I see a lot of people doing a lot of good things, and it's all about changing the mindset while they're still incarcerated, so that they get out and help them to get acclimated back into society. So, Becky, you want to hit the PowerPoint for us?
Sorry, I had it on mute because there's a big helicopter over my head.
Okay.
Let's do that. There's what we're going to show you are we're going to go through together are some of the things that we are, you know, consider myths in the world of for the formerly incarcerated. And some of you may have seen some of these. We did part of these last year. There's a couple ones that have changed and we've updated as well. So if you want to answer, as we're going through, you can just drop your answer in the chat, which I think would be fun. So we can kind of see where we're all at as we're going through. Of course, now I can't see my chat, but because I'm sharing my screen and I'm not super efficient. Okay, so let's just go. I'll just go. So at any one time, Anthony kind of alluded to this, at any one time, how many people are on probation or in jail or on parole in the United States? And this is definitely changing as we speak. So like I said, you can just drop, A, B, C, or D in the chat. There's no real wrong answers. Oh, look, here we go. C, A, B, B, B. I'll tell you now that the answer is A, 6.9 million people at any one time are incarcerated, on probation, or on parole. So as Jennifer said, and as Anthony was saying, it affects all of us, right? We all may know somebody who has been formerly incarcerated or who is incarcerated right now, and it is all around us. So it is us. All right, let's look at the next one here. This is the same kind of question, sort of. How blank and blank number of people in the United States have either had an experience with the justice system or have an immediate family member who has? Same thing, drop them in the chat. What you think? Is it A, 1 and 2? Is it B, 1 and 5? Is it C, 1 and 7? Or D, 1 and 10? Man, there's a lot of right answers on this one. That's awesome. It is B, 1 and 5. Or I think you can extrapolate. Math has never been my super strong point. I mean, I can add and subtract in that, but I was just going to say that 1 and 5, I think that's like 20%, right? Of 20% of us.
Yeah, or 4 to 5 people in this Zoom.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. All right, the next one, barriers to reentry include, and you can pick all of these that you think are appropriate. So access to higher education or public student loans, employment, housing, access to public benefits, and debt. The answers, all of the above, all. Everybody says all. Look at it. We're all on the same page. That's awesome. All of the above. It is absolutely all of the above. So when you think about, you're coming out of incarceration, the things that normally we've built up to and, are starting in life, you're starting at ground zero, and all of these are barriers. All of these basic things in life are barriers. All right, legal financial obligations are not negotiable. This is a trick question. Just saying. Not true. A, Grady says true. John says false.
Can we get a by show of hands how many people know what legal financial obligations are?
That's a great question, Anthony. I do too, but yeah, I live in the space, so yeah. Okay, so do you want to explain what legal financial obligations are, Anthony? Or
Yeah, legal financial obligations are pretty much 2 types. One is they charge you for any type of court fines if you appeal your case. So you're kind of discouraged from appealing your case, even if somebody's innocent, because they'll charge you if you lose on the first level of your appeal. They'll charge you like $25,000 for that. And if they do any type of testing, like one guy I knew, he had a double life sentence. He ended up getting exonerated like over 20 years later, but he wanted to have a DNA test. So they tested it, and then they came back later and said the test was faulty, but they initially charged him $70,000 for that test. So you can see how it's discouraging to even fight, even if you're innocent. But that's one type of legal financial obligation. The other one is restitution. So like if you stole a car and wrecked it, then you have to pay back. And I think that's a more justifiable legal financial obligation, but the other one is taxing on the court fees.
Well, some of them are, and that's
It's
the
some,
thing that if there's additional fines or fees or interest that are added on to those fees, they can get to the point where it's just untenable. The person they're not going to be able to get out from underneath of that.
Yeah, 12% compound interest.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, it's huge for people. So, again, another barrier, that's an extreme financial barrier potentially. Okay, let's see our next one here. People who are incarcerated are often targeted by identity thieves. True or false? A or B? A. Yes. Lots of right answers here too. Yeah, absolutely. Right. I mean, who's an easier target? Someone who's, in prison, isn't looking at their credit reports, can't really see what's going on. And Donna says often by family, unfortunately, people who are the closest to them. Yeah, absolutely. Because there is no real way to know. I mean, you can write in for a credit report, if you're incarcerated, but it's not going to be an easy process. And then if you have to dispute that goes on and on. So yeah, and if you're even aware that this is something that could be happening to you while you're in prison. So again, kind of stacking that deck potentially against people as they come out and they're trying to get integrated into the financial pieces of our system. All right, last one. What percentage of people incarcerated at least 5 years ago, so they're out, have not attempted to borrow from a bank or a non-bank lender within the last 3 years? It's kind of a confusing question. Adam is an overachiever, so is Grady. I'm just kidding. You guys you're all overachievers. You're all getting it right. Yeah, absolutely. 62% of the people are not even trying to get involved, in lending, which again, how do many people overcome some of those financial hurdles? They might borrow money or, and in our case, we see people going to other services like payday lenders or family or friends or not, nice situations to borrow money or get access to funds. And that can be because they really are shut out of the financial system, or they don't understand the financial system. They don't trust the financial system. I mean, there's a lot of different reasons why that happens, but I think that's one of the things that maybe, we'll be able to work on today in making that more accessible for people. So I'm going to stop sharing. The other rest of this just goes to, it's on this side, sorry. Goes through the answers, but we did them as we went through. I do want to, does anybody have any questions or anything, at this point about what we just talked about? We good? All right, so I would like to introduce Grady Mitchell. So Grady is a Roots of Success master trainer and a motivational speaker and a consultant with the Grady Mitchell Consulting. He has been a guest speaker on programs that were hosted by Microsoft, Yale University, Boston College, the Washington State Bar Association, and the Rotary Club, among many others. The Roots of Success curriculum covers a wide variety of environmental issues that includes like land use, waste, energy, transportation, buildings, health, agriculture, urban sprawl, the effects of landfills, chemical pollution. They offer certified apprenticeships in collaboration with the U.S. Department of Labor. And Grady became a Roots of Success instructor in 2013. While he was serving life without parole sentence in Washington state prisons. He has taught and mentored hundreds of students in the Roots for Success program and trained men incarcerated in Washington's prison to teach the Roots of Success classes. In January 2021, lucky for all of us, after Mitchell's 37-year sentence was commuted, he joined the Roots for Success team, serving as Corrections and Reentry Program Director and as an advisory board member with the Roots of Success program. He currently volunteers for the Washington Department of Corrections in developing volunteer and reentry policies and continues to mentor. And he's also married and has he's 6 children, and he's the grandfather of a college freshman as well. So that's always fun and definitely a proud accomplishment. So Grady, I appreciate so much that you agreed to come and talk to us today. I'm hoping you can tell us a little bit about your experience, coming out of incarceration and what the world was like, and trying to make your way.
Wow, that was a pretty great introduction. I was sitting there thinking, man, is she really talking about me? I teared up a little bit.
Me
and just
too.
hearing, I appreciate that, Becky. First and foremost, I'd like to extend my apologies to everyone on the panel for the offense I committed back in 1983. I really always like to open with that because it was really something that should not have happened. Also, so I really have two different sides here because, Anthony said it brilliantly. And I also have to contribute in that bio that Seattle Clemency Project, they were the top. They were the reason I'm sitting here in this living room right now and being involved in so many great and wonderful things and projects. So I always tip my hat to them. There's no statute of limitations on my service to them because they were responsible for my freedom. They presented me and represented me very well. Great organization. So I come with two different perspectives, I think, from coming back into re-entering into society as a returning citizen. And one is because I conditioned myself prior to release. In other words, I became informed. I understood what a FICO was, and I knew what the credit score was, and I knew the impact, the significance. I knew it was important to manage my money. In fact, myself and Anthony Powers were colleagues. And when I would stumble and slip, I could always go to him for information. And this was on a broad spectrum. I've also, and I'm currently dealing with individuals that do not have that conditioning. And so I'm here to lend both respect. But my experience in coming out is first and foremost, I left with $40 gate money and my ID card cost $50. So that was a problem already. I'm already $10 in the hole, and that was it. Because I was serving such a long sentence, I wasn't allowed to have a savings account established because it was like, you're never going home. You don't need to have savings. Just blow all your money if that's what you want to do. So we were already in the hole. Initially, when I went on into a bank, I experienced anxiety. I was fearful. I'm trying to think. I was fearful. I was fearful of denial, of embarrassment, and how I would be seen or judged by the financial institution. It was like, there's no way they're going to let me even open an account, let alone think about getting a loan or getting money. And these were my thoughts going in, mind you, and in financial literacy was something that I was very, very knowledgeable of. And so I was able to push past that with the help and support of my wife. And so things weren't as I had perceived them. But that put me in the mindset of how do the individual that had not been conditioned deal with these obstacles. That is really, man, that's frightening. And it's frightening in the sense because I can begin to understand even more clearly now that how can an individual that may get a job and may be able to make some decent money or whatever, if he don't know how to manage his money, if he doesn't know the responsibility, if he doesn't understand like I said, the FICO and everything else, man, what is he going to do with his money? He's going to be a part of that 66 million that was spoken of with the stimulus checks that went to some of those predatory lending programs or whatever the case may be, because they don't have that understanding, they don't have that support. So I didn't know what was needed to open an account. I would say a lot of people, I didn't really know what was needed. I knew I needed an ID card, but that was about it. And then the question came into my own head, can I be responsible? And I was able to answer that. And then I really didn't begin to understand that whole significance about the credit reports and FICO. but I learned even more. And mind you, I still had, some knowledge, generic base level knowledge. But I think what boosted my courage and confidence is when I went to the car dealership, and a friend of mine worked there. And that's what made the experience easy for me, because I knew him while incarcerated and sent a couple people to him. And he was a very honest guy. And he came back and told me my credit score was 819. And I said, 819? I said, I kind of looked because of the things that I'd done prior to that release. So then another young man that had recently been released, I'd asked him what his credit score was, and he said something like 600 or something like that. I can't remember what he said, but it was just horrible. And I said, well, what are you doing? He said, well, Grady, I don't know what to do. He said, I don't know. He said, there was a real lack of understanding. And as I talk to men now that are incarcerated still, and I'm in touch with them, man, there are a lot of things that they just don't know, because that's the way the system is designed. They'll say, okay, we have money in a non-interest bearing savings account for those people that have release dates. But some don't even know what the interest is. Some don't know anything about it. Some don't know that a lot of the obstacles that they're going to have to face can be overcame easily. And once again, it's just that great fear of the banking industry. It's like we're talking about money. And so, man, there's just no way. I'm a convicted felon. I'm just getting out of prison. Man, they're not going to help me. And I'm not going to walk in there and be embarrassed. I'm too prideful. My ego is too big, So I really don't know what the solution could be. But I think this is a great step towards that solution, as well as sharing the information and getting the information out. The last thing I would like to say is, because I'm deeply involved with the underserved community, and a lot of people that are there don't feel that the bank serve their community. And that's sad. And that's really sad, because we're talking about people who some may grow to be old. And how does that outlook look for those individuals? How does their future look as far as that goes? So I don't know if I don't know if there's any questions or what, but I'm just more open. Or is there a specific direction that anyone would like me to address? Feel free.
Grady, I have a question. So when you talk about that people are, fearful and anxiety, about going to a financial institution, do you think that, I guess I'm looking for, is it just the greater society in general that is going to, push them out because they don't, quote unquote, they don't belong? Or do you think it comes from the own internal self-talk that, we have? Or
it's really threefold. It's both of those, plus the image that we always get of the banking industry. I mean, it's just the perception that we have, and it could be a misperception. But yes, it's absolutely. And just that fear of rejection.
Mm-hmm.
No one wants to be rejected. Whether you've been to prison or not, if you go in and put in for a loan and you think you're eligible for that loan and you get rejected, that's a horrible feeling. That's depressing. So it could, I think it covers three different areas, the two you mentioned, plus just the perception of going up against, you think when I think about banks, I think about the Bezos, and I think about the Gates, I think about the Trumps, and just the big money guys, the Buffetts and all of them. And I just think, man, there's no way my little old $2,000-$3,000 ain't gonna have an effect on nothing. They're gonna look at me and just kick me out with a boot or something,
That's good, though. That's really good insight. It's, even I'm not a bank, but as someone who's out there working with people in the community, how do I communicate, to to people that, listen, there are great, banks, there are great credit unions out there who do wonderful services, and they are going to be supportive, as opposed to, making you feel inadequate, for coming in here and, trying to open an account or trying to get a loan or something like that. And I'm not asking you to solve the world's problems, although I think you might be able to, but I don't know. I definitely can't. I don't know. Does anybody else have any questions for Grady?
I think Ozell was.
Oh.
Yeah. Hey, Grady, what would have made it so you didn't have as much anxiety, that you felt more welcome? What could have been done to make it so that you would not have had the same feelings going into a financial institution?
I can tell you what would have comforted me, but how to achieve it, I think would require partnership with financial institutions and DOCs across America. But it would have been the information, or it would have been someone that I could talk to and say, hey, you can do this, or you can do that. Sadly, a lot of guys don't take the initiative to get the understanding about it. They just don't take that initiative. I'll be upfront to say that. And consider the environment that they're in or they came from, and the people they surround themselves with, even while they're incarcerated. I was fortunate enough to be around guys like Anthony and some other guys that, man, they were, man, we walked the walk and talked the talk, and it was really important. But you have some that just don't have that information. If we had some Beckys or some Alexandras or whoever to come in and say, hey, listen, here, and let me, and I don't hate to do this, but it's really important. That's if I was to saw Brittany, someone that I feel I could identify with, or Ozell that I can identify with because I'm someone of color, to say, hey, listen, do you know that you can do this? And then to see, man, they're doing it. Or if I can see Becky, who's so charming. I'm telling you, Becky is just the warmest person I've ever met. And so and just to hear Becky say, yes, you can do it, because a lot of times through the filter of some individuals' eyes from the underserved communities, if they see someone that they see as a superior from that same community, from a different community, then they would say, man, they said I could do it. And that empowers, there's just so many different ways. So if I just had to say what would have taken, just knowing that I could have achieved it, having that information prior to me getting out, would have definitely let me know, or either having a connection and doing what Anthony does so well. And that's letting people know, hey, listen, do this, do that. I was in conversation with him prior to my release last year in January. He was reminding me, Grady, do this, don't forget this. That was important. Little bitty things that we sometimes overlook can really eradicate a lot of obstacles that one may face. I like the tough questions too. If there's any tough questions, please feel free. I like feeling uncomfortable. Like Jen said, that's my growth.
I don't know. I don't know what a tough question would be, but
any question, I don't matter.
Grady, how old are you?
No.
Oh, I'm playing.
Hey, no, it's relevant because I was incarcerated at the age of 24 and I'm now 62 years of age. So
and what we're seeing with these prison reforms, a lot of people who are getting out, who are up there in age, it makes things that much more difficult when you're trying to start life in your 50s and 60s.
Because you're dealing with the mentality of an individual that's just so used to that old system, and he's saying, man, I remember back then, I couldn't even get a check. So forget it. I don't even want to do it now. I'm telling you, we just need to empower and encourage.
Yeah. I think that's the big thing. I mean, that I'm taking away from what you're saying. And I think we kind of all know it in general, but just hearing what you're saying is that it's that level of support. You know, we have to be able to support people as they're coming out of incarceration, and not just, you know, here's your $40, good luck, you know, have a good time. We have to have the supports in there. And the more that there is, the better that it works. Just like, you know, what we see with Anthony and, you know, how he works so hard. Just so y'all know, Anthony makes midnight drives to help people.
If I could just with one thing, Becky, and that's this. This is how ill-informed a lot of people are, and me and Anthony have taught many of men, hundreds. You know, when we mentioned FICO, they were like, "What's that?" And some of the people that knew what FICO, they didn't even know what it stood for. They didn't even know it stood for Fair Isaacs Corporation. They didn't know that. And then, well, how do they calculate it? What is it based on? And when they found out and see how easy it is, and see what the formula is, you just see, you see lights come on. You see hope. And that's one of the greatest things you can give in someone that's returning is hope.
Amen.
And I like to just add one last piece. I know we're,
I know our time.
A little bit. Jennifer's over there panicking like, hey guys, right? So, but I'd also, just encourage everybody to try to share the information as much as possible, and try to, put yourself in that uncomfortable position of speaking about these issues, right? Because you'll see a shift in dynamics and a shift in, the ripple effect of things. I mean, some people in my family, my cousin has 3 master's degrees and, never been in trouble a day in her life, right? But she saw how fast I was moving. Like literally Thanksgiving last year, she was like, I gotta get my stuff together. I gotta take a different approach to things, right? And she bought a house this summer and everything else, you know what I mean? But it's just like before that, she was living with my aunt at 30-something years old, you know what I mean? So it's like, it could shift the people's thought process of what's possible, how to go about things and everything else. And it could really have a positive benefit on our whole society, in my opinion.
I think that's awesome. Well, Grady, I really appreciate it. Oh, it looks like Adam has a question. He's got his hand up. Sorry, I just saw it.
Oh, more just thinking about this and thinking about Grady. He's been talking about and thinking about the things that Anthony, I know the wonderful things his organization does. To me, for the financial as part of this call, what it seems like is, for us, what we need to take back is, right, like, when I think about, I imagine some of the situations, someone who's recently incarcerated, getting out and then going to open an account, like if they did have identity theft on their record, like that could impact something, right, like check systems or any of the number of the things that banks, right, and credit unions use to do their typical, right, like risk checks or things. And so, like, to me, it's like something that I always try to think about is like seeing if we can talk to like our product people and our people in management to try to do more to get information into the hands of like those people in the branches to understand, like, hey, if someone has a situation coming up, let's not just deny them. Let's think about, like, giving some strategies around, like, I know that we'll say, like, hey, contact check systems or contact, if something's on your record that shouldn't be there. Like, I know that guidance is there, but I sometimes wonder about how effective it is. And so that's something that I know that, or I feel like that we try to think about and bring back to our, just to our institutions, like, how can we do better?
Adam, I think that's a great kind of segue into talking here. So what we want to try to do is go to breakout rooms for just a few minutes to really kind of think through, what we've heard this morning, and what are our thoughts about that? New surprising kind of information. Are there some specific examples Jennifer just actually put it in the chat so you can see the kind of prompts there. Some specific examples of how you've seen people experience barriers in your work, and how do you think people who are justice involved experience your work or your place of business. So I think it's a great opportunity to have that conversation. So Jennifer's going to put us all into breakout rooms together. Yes. And I hope that, go ahead, Jennifer.
Oh, well, I was going to say, I have them ready. Once you're in your breakout room, you can reopen your chat and see the prompts.
Okay.
We'll be in there for 5 minutes. And when we come back, we're actually going to be hearing from a panel of financial institution folks that are going to be talking about some of the things that they are doing in their banks and credit unions. So that's where we're headed next. So thank you, Adam. You're Perfect. Right on with what we were thinking about for this. So we'll go into breakout rooms now for 5 minutes. It'll automatically shut down and bring you back here then, and we will continue on. So thank you very much, Grady,
for
sharing your story, and Anthony and Becky. Okay, I'm going to send us off.
Okay.
Right, welcome back. Thank you all. I know folks have a love-hate relationship with breakout rooms. I love them. So thank you all for participating with me, indulging me. Okay, so next up, I am going to introduce our panelists. We have such a great group today that's going to share a little bit about what their financial institutions are doing. So first, we have Brittany Elder. She's the Community Engagement Relationship Officer for Jpmorgan Chase in the Pacific Northwest. She supports market-level engagements and collaborations between Chase and community partners to advance wealth creation, workforce development, entrepreneurship, and sustainability. Prior to joining Chase, Brittany was the Community Development Administrator at Washington Federal Bank, focusing on advancing community development initiatives and CRA compliance. Brittany earned her BA in English and Cultural Studies from the University of North Carolina and Master's in Business Management from Wake Forest University. So thank you, Brittany, for joining us. Elizabeth Escobar is the Chief Business Officer of Express Credit Union and has been there for 10 years. She's responsible for and oversees marketing, communications, member engagement, partnerships, financial education, and consumer and mortgage lending. That's all. Her favorite part of working at Express is working directly with members, listening to their stories and needs, and finding solutions to save them money and solve a problem. Second to that, Elizabeth loves working with the Express community partners on developing ways to bring services to their clients. Prior to Express, Elizabeth served as a Peace Corps volunteer in Paraguay as a rural economic development volunteer at a saving and loan cooperative. She has a 6-year-old daughter and lives in South Park, where she loves to cook and play outside. And then we have Deanne Gough joining us. Deanne has an extensive history with First Security Bank, starting in 1996 when she joined the Credit Union of Puget Sound. That institution then merged with Washington's Credit Union in 2001 and later became First Security Bank in 2004. She holds an associate degree in accounting from Pierce College. Deanne is passionate about the bank's vision, mission, and core values. She finds her greatest satisfaction in building relationships with the customers and employees at First Security. Deanne engages in community support by volunteering for the IF Project, teaching financial literacy at the Washington Correction Center for Women, and volunteers with the YWCA BankWorks. So thank you to the three of you for joining us today. We'll just jump right in with the first question, which is, what experience does your financial institution have with folks who have been incarcerated or who are justice involved? So Brittany, I'm just gonna go to you first.
Yeah, sure. First off, thank you for having us here. I've been really encouraged by the first half. So just thank you for Seattle Clemency Project and Grady for sharing the first bit. But anyway, in regards to Chase, we've spent the last few years building out a comprehensive initiative to kind of expand economic opportunity for returning citizens. And so our Second Chance initiative it essentially focuses on like 3 sort of prong approach to expanding economic opportunities. So the first of which is through public policy. The second is through philanthropic investment. And then lastly, restructuring our own firm's hiring practices. So in regards to the public policy piece, we do have a policy center that works to advance federal and state second chance public policy agendas. And so we specifically are focusing on how do we reform the financial industry hiring rules? How do we support the restoration of Pell Grants for those who have been formerly incarcerated? We've been advocating for fair chance hiring to be implemented from a federal level. And we've also supported the clean slate record clearing, which is essentially the sealing of certain criminal records from public view through an automated system. And right now, there are only 3 states that are doing it. So how do we support the expansion to that to all 50 states? And then when we look at our philanthropic investments, we did an initial commitment of $7 million to fund nonprofits that are basically providing skill development, financial coaching, entrepreneurship programming. And so in that way, we're trying to build out a robust approach to sort of help folks get plugged in with employment opportunities.
Great, thank you. Elizabeth, I will ask you the same question. Tell us about your organization, or tell us about the work of Express.
Thanks. And I echo Brittany. Thank you, everyone, Anthony and Grady and Becky and Jennifer for hosting this and having us. So at Express Credit Union, we're designed to serve, and it's our core mission to really serve disadvantaged individuals and communities. We focus on providing affordable, accessible, and equitable financial services. Our members come from diverse backgrounds, and we specialize in working with individuals of lower income levels. Maybe they don't have the best credit score. Maybe they've had past negative or limited banking experiences, and that could be due to their immigration status. So justice-involved individuals fall into these categories as being underbanked, maybe low income, a low credit score. In turn, it is our mission to serve them just like anyone else. One specific partnership that we've worked with in serving justice-involved individual is the YWCA and their Passage Point program that supports recently incarcerated individuals re-entering society. It's a location that provides a facility for them to live with their families again and get back on their feet as they re-enter. We've worked with them and their clients at that location. We go to the Passage Point location. We've provided financial education, and we open accounts for them on the spot at Passage Point by lowering those barriers to access going to where they are at. Has really helped a lot open accounts. It's a location that's pretty far, out of the way, and many don't have reliable transportation. So that's one example of partnership. And we also accept the Department of Corrections identification form as a valid ID when opening accounts. And then lastly, we've opened accounts for individuals who are currently incarcerated using power of attorneys through family members. So we're able to open accounts for individuals who are still incarcerated to facilitate that savings and establish that banking relationship so that when they do get out, they have a place to go. So I'll just leave it there till the next question.
Great, thank you, Elizabeth. And Deanne, I will ask you the same. Tell us about your First Security Bank's experience.
Almost forgot to unmute, sorry about that. Gotta love Zoom. So at First Security Bank since 2016, we partnered with the IF Project to provide financial literacy education as part of a 10-week re-entry education and readiness program. During the quarterly training sessions, bank volunteers review banking basics, including budgeting, and then we also meet one-on-one with the attendees to review their credit report, which is probably the most popular part of the education process. It does mean a lot to them that we're able to review it with them, give them ideas of if there is identity theft, how we can go about helping them fix that, or they have this high score. That's great. In addition to that, our bank actually created a checking account that we offer to graduates of the program, so they don't have to worry about the check system or ID requirements. And so we are really excited to include this account as part of the BankOn program also.
Great, thank you for that. So I heard you all in different ways talk about partnerships. And so is there anything that any of you would like to add about that, about how those partnerships really contribute to the success of your work?
Well, one comment that I was going to say a little later, but actually pertains to this, is the partnerships that we've established. We have a referral process we've created, and so it facilitates an easy way to get clients connected to our products and services in a way that's not so intimidating. So if someone's working with a case manager at a partner organization or an employee, and they hear this person talking about banking issues or credit issues or mistrust or just wanting more information, we have a really simple process with our partners to get that client's information to us, and we personally reach out to them. So it's not like it's like black hole of a website, like go on and apply or go and walk into this branch not really knowing anyone. So we've felt that that's added to the success in just helping people make that next step.
Great. I mean, that it resonates with what, you know, Anthony and Grady talked about earlier about like having those relationships. And so as the financial institutions, like making those connections with the folks that have those relationships with the community members. So thank you for talking about that a little bit more. And so some of you already talked about this a little bit, but in what ways do you lower barriers for folks that are justice involved? So Deanne, I'll start with you.
So I'm going to speak to the IF project because that's what you know, we've been really focusing on. Geez, it's hard to believe it's been 5 years, but you know, for the IF project graduates, we at this point primarily use one location so that our branch team can build that relationship. We offer to set up appointments for them to come in and to sit with the banker so they have that private one-on-one time. And they can ask whatever questions that they have so that we can help them get set up with some of the like online banking or mobile banking, you know, if they have a device to use. But also if it makes them more comfortable, an IF project team member is welcome to join them when they come to the bank.
Great, thank you. Elizabeth, how about you?
Yeah, so it's in our blood, it's in our DNA, everything we do. It's our mission to lower barriers and access to financial services. We really ensure that during our intake or application, we talk with prospective members, we hear their story, we listen to what their needs are. We share back about who we are, what we can offer, and make it more of a two-way conversation. Then they can decide if we are a good fit for them or not. We do talk about alternative forms of IDs that we can accept, including our, the Matricula Consular card. And we also accept ITIN numbers for account openings as well. So for individuals who don't hold a social security number. And then further, we accept alternative forms of address if a physical address is a barrier to someone opening an account. And I think that's really important to call out for financial institutions, is looking for other ways to meet our due diligence and, you know, know your member or know your customer process, and that there are other ways you can fulfill those requirements. We also offer second chance accounts for individuals with a past negative banking history. So that identity theft or maybe unpaid bank accounts that are reporting on their check systems. Many times we can still open at least a savings account while that person works on addressing whatever issue might be there. So it's very rare that we say no to someone to opening an account. Lastly, we've launched this pilot, and actually yesterday we received the announcement that we were awarded a CDFI grant to fully roll out this program, and it revolves around suspended driver's licenses. There's over 500,000 people in Washington state with suspended driver's license for unpaid fines or fees. And not having a driver's license, we know, can lead to many other barriers to living a normal life. So it's a loan program, and I am 100% aware that a loan might not be the option for everyone. There are programs within different court systems, different grant programs, but this is an option. It's a loan up to $3,000 that can help pay for these fines or fees that's prohibiting them from getting their driver's license back. There's no minimum credit score requirement. There's no DTI, debt to income limitation. The money is paid directly towards that fine or fee. It could even be like an interlock device or something like that. We encourage financial coaching, and you can get interest rate reductions for partnering with a financial coach. And again, it's a pilot we've launched. It's open to being adjusted as we talk to more individuals about how it works and how it fits. It's more than just a loan, though. It's really establishing a relationship with Express Credit Union, and there are a lot of other benefits to that relationship. So it's just really opening the door to future options.
Great, thank you for that, Elizabeth. And I'll share the link to the information we've shared previously when they rolled out the pilot about the driver's license loan program, because that's so many folks have clients that are dealing with that. So I'll make sure to share that after the event today. And Brittany, how about for you? How are you lowering barriers for folks that are justice involved?
Sure. So at Chase, there are a number of different ways. So previously, I was outlining more of the systematic approaches that we're taking, but as a firm, we've done a number of things to lower barriers. The first of which we've adopted our own fair chance hiring practice. So we've eliminated the conviction history question on our applications, just so that we can actually evaluate the talent and the skill of the person without allowing that conviction history question to automatically disqualify them. Also, we've created a talent pipeline for recruitment by partnering with community organizations. And, you know, we've seen great results from this so far in regards to recruiting and hiring those who have been formally involved with the justice system. In 2020, about 10% of our US hires were formerly incarcerated folks. So the 2021 numbers have not been finalized yet, but I think that's pretty impressive that a firm of our size, at 10% of our firm, you know, are folks who have formerly been incarcerated. Outside of that, we do see engagement with our employee volunteerism. So we do have folks who have been going into the prison system and actually providing financial literacy training for folks who have a release date between 6 to 12 months out. So very much similarly to Grady's experience, how do we create this runway for folks to kind of prepare and get ready prior to them being released? So we have seen volunteerism efforts around that. Also, we have been piloting expungement clinics with nonprofits and legal volunteers in our community branches. And so that's something we've begun piloting in the Midwest. You know, as you know, the expungement process can be very complex and expensive. And so we're really glad to be able to begin piloting this effort in our community branches. And then I would say lastly, just we have been establishing private sector coalitions to kind of develop best practices and create resources for other companies to start recruiting and hiring and learn how to retain this particular population in their workforce. And so I would say those are a few different ways in which we've kind of been lowering barriers for justice involved folks.
Okay, thank you. All right, so I'm gonna kind of combine our last couple of questions about, tell us about what are the challenges that you all have experienced in doing this work, but then also like what has worked to overcome those challenges and what's working really well. So Liz, I'm gonna start with you.
Great, thank you. So we're new in this space of talking about, serving justice involved individuals. In the past, they are our mission members, they're who we serve, but we have a lot to learn. They're in the feeling that we're not doing enough, don't have enough resources to follow up and ensure that all of our members are succeeding is always a challenge that I have. We're a small CDFI credit union and we don't have a lot of funds for new or fancy technology, which leaves us behind a lot of the times with our competitors. But I feel that our success comes from, being authentic and transparent, along with treating people with respect and dignity, helps empower people to move forward and succeed. I talked about the referral process. I think that has been really successful. And I also feel that being in the community, going to where people are at, where they're meeting, where they're, visiting with other nonprofits has added to our success, being flexible and able to accept alternative forms of ID, alternative forms of address verification has helped us in being successful because we're not putting everyone in this box. We're hearing their story, we're seeing what they have, and we're working with them so that they're not discouraged, because a lot of people do have mistrust in financial institutions because of past negative experiences. We really just want to be a safe place and make them feel like they belong, and we do treat everyone equally. So I feel like that's led to our success, but we have a ton to learn and we can always do more.
Thanks. Brittany, how about you? What's been challenging and what's working really well?
I would say anytime you're working towards, a bigger goal, I think the biggest kind of challenge is balancing the perspective and needs of multiple stakeholders. So, as a financial institution, you have a responsibility to your stakeholders, to regulatory bodies, to your customers, to, operate in a safe and sound way. However, we do have a responsibility to engage with our community and make sure that excluded groups are able to have access to economic opportunity. And so I think it's finding that fine balancing act between those two demands. And I think it's the biggest thing is making sure that you approach it in a way where it's not either or, but more so, okay, what is the common ground between all of these stakeholders and how can we use that to advance the work that we're doing? And so I think sometimes folks may look at those competing interests as a cop out, like, oh, we really can't do it, it's too complicated. But I think, if there's a will, there is a way. And so I think it's remaining committed to that mission and doing what you can do, and where there's areas where you can't, explaining that and being clear about, the boundaries that you kind of have to set in the process in order to ensure that all parties are benefiting from the work that we're doing.
Thank you for that answer. Balancing the needs of multiple stakeholders and finding common ground, I feel like those are the answers to all the world's problems, but so clearly articulated. So thank you for saying that. All right, Deanne, how about you? What challenges and what's working well?
Well, I would agree with Carla as far as we are a community bank with 21 branches. So we too struggle with resources and, just the time. But for us right now at First Security, I would say, unfortunately, COVID has been a real struggle because of the inability to have those in-person meetings and training sessions. But we're going to get past that. 2022 is going to be something new. So hopefully we'll be able to start doing our in-person meetings. But as far as successes and what's worked well is, I appreciate as a bank that we're focusing on the reentry into our communities, and then through the education process, and then also providing opportunities to have a reset on banking relationships. Because, in listening to everyone and the stories is that it can be a scary experience. My daughter actually had been previously incarcerated or justice involved, and so it was actually Chase that helped her get her feet back on the ground, and that was an awesome experience. So being able to help The underbanked in our communities is a big focus of First Security, and we're really excited to become BankOn accredited.
Great. Thank you, Deanne, and thank you for sharing that story. If you have questions, please raise your hand or put them in the chat. We have time for just a couple. I see a few. Thank you, Becky, for all your questions. Brittany, we would love to hear more about those initiatives. If you could send me that information, I can send it out to all of the participants today about the initiatives that you're working on, so that we can also be supporting those from all of our different perspectives as well. And then, oh, go ahead.
No, I was saying, yeah, absolutely. I will send that to you. And I forgot to talk about what was working well. I was just like, these are the challenges. But two things I wanted to add, and out of one of them, I think there will be resources that folks can use. I'll just speak about one. So as I was talking about that private sector coalition and how we're partnering with other large employers to kind of develop best practices. So recently, our CEO, Jamie Dimon, he's the co-chair on the Second Chance Business Coalition. And I will send that link to Jennifer as well. And this coalition, so we're thinking AT&T, Gap, Home Depot, Pepsi, et cetera. But this site actually serves as a repository of resources around folks who want to implement second chance employment processes into their organizations. So I think it would be a great resource for everyone to kind of look at and see maybe what you can use, what you can implement in your organization. And then also, Dave, are you guys familiar with Dave's Killer Bread? So they have a foundation that actually does a corporate cohort program. So it's an 8-week program that is offered to like HR and operations professionals. And it basically takes them through the process of learning how to integrate second chance employment processes into their organizations. So I think those would be great resources for folks who may be considering how can we apply this to the work that we're doing. So I would add that as a thing that's working well and a resource that maybe folks can use after this call.
Thank you for that, Brittany. That's great. Yeah, we will definitely send that out. Those are excellent resources. So thank you. Just to confirm, Liz, you said that folks could use the driver's license loan for interlock device. Is that correct?
Yes, if that is if that is the step they need to take to get their driver's license reinstated, then that can be what the loan is used to pay for.
Okay, awesome. I don't see hands raised, so I'm going to move us into our breakout rooms because,
Anthony had his hand raised, Jennifer.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Just want to make a fun fact I just saw 2 days ago. Dave's Killer Bread is actually healthier for you. You look at most loaves of bread, including France and Walmart brands and all that, and they have a warning on there saying this includes ingredients that may cause cancer and birth defects on most types of bread. So you might want to look in your kitchen.
Thank you for that. Another reason to eat less bread. All right. So we are going to go into breakout rooms. They are going to be 5 minutes again. And I'm going to put the questions in the chat. Really, we just want folks to have the opportunity to kind of discuss what we've heard so far today. Again, reflect on the panel. And then we're going to come back together and have a couple of minutes for some discussion all together. So just know like that is coming next. So I'm going to send us to breakout rooms. Again, we're going to do 5 minutes and then we will be back here to have final discussion and close us out. Thank you to the panelists, Brittany, Deanne, Liz. I appreciate so much your contributions and really talking about, your own experiences, your organization's experiences, and the great things that are happening and also the limitations. Before I go, was there another question? Oh, I missed this in the chat. Grady, yes, how are we going to do this on a large scale? Bring that question into your breakout room because that is the question, right? Like, how do we do this for more folks? So Okay, I'm going to send us into breakout rooms and then we'll come back in a few minutes. So thank you. Okay, welcome back, everyone. So I'd love to hear a little bit if anyone has something that really stood out to them from the breakout rooms or from the panel or the conversations today. I'd love to just have a chance to kind of take a few minutes to hear from folks. Yeah, Andrea.
Yeah, what I was saying to Anthony in our breakout session and Grady and everybody that was in there is that, you know, it'd be really helpful is we really need to have one list of the nonprofit organizations serving the incarcerated individuals, whether they're serving them while they're in the institution or when they're coming out, because if they're embedded in the community, they'll have a better way to do outreach to clients. And I think that's what's really needed in COVID is that, you know, for my training, we're training Native Americans on digital literacy and also financial literacy. But it's really hard to find them in COVID because with Natives, if you're not face to face, if you don't see them at the powwow canoe journey, you can't find them. They're not connected, you know. So that's something that would be really good. And I'm wondering, Jennifer, is that something? What organization in your financial empowerment network could help just compile that list? I think that would be so helpful.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion. And I don't know if that might already exist somewhere that anyone might know of, or if, you know, if that's something we could work towards.
I think that's something we could work towards. I think there was another organization that had just reached out to me like 2 days ago about that same type of a list. And so I started going out and doing, you know, research, and there are lists, but I mean, like some of the people that are doing work with, the, you know, formerly incarcerated people are not on that list that are here today, you know? So, I mean, it's not a full list. And I think our group kind of came into that same idea that, Andrea, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to butt in on you.
That's okay. No.
I was just going to say, we kind of hit that same exact thing that it's, you know, we are all, especially because of this, we're all very siloed, and, you know, there's not a lot of cross talk about things and whatnot. Like Deanna and I didn't even know that we're both working with the IF project, right? So, I mean, how is that even possible that we don't know that? It doesn't make any sense. So, you know, being able to make those connections. And I think that kind of rolls back to Grady's point of how do we get this out there on a larger scale? Well, we all have to know about it in order to get it out there on a larger scale. So, you know, and that, you know, I don't know if it's the answer, but that list might be the first step in that, you know, and then maybe we, you know, create a financial empowerment network for formerly incarcerated organizations, or organizations that, you know, serve people who are formerly incarcerated or are incarcerated. I don't know. I'm just throwing crap out there, but.
So there was a question in the chat about a participant list, and, you know, I have not done that before. I don't know if Alice used to do that, but that's something we could do. But for now, if folks would like to just put your email address in the chat, so that way other folks have access to that. And I will be sending out, I don't know if it'll be today or in the next couple of days, I'll be sending out a follow-up email. It'll come from Eventbrite with some information that we talked about, resources, all of that, the contact information of our panelists and facilitators. So that'll be coming as well. While folks are doing that and asking questions, I do just want to, because we're reaching the end of our time very shortly, I do want to ask folks to please take a moment and fill out our survey to provide feedback about today's session. We really value hearing from all of you. That's how we created this today, is from feedback from folks. So if you take a few minutes and fill that out, that's really helpful. And now I have lost the chat. If there was another question, sorry, I'm going back through. Thank you all for putting your email addresses in. Okay, Andrea shared there are a couple of organizations that work with Native folks that are reentering. Washington 211, yeah, they don't have a comprehensive list. I know in King County, which I know not everybody is in King County, but the King County 211, they changed their name. What are they called now? Community Connections? Shoot, I'm having a moment because I'm on the spot. They actually have a packet on their website of like housing and employment resources for reentry. So that's one, and I can include that link. But for statewide, I don't know that, yeah, other than 211, which may not be complete, I don't know that anything exists. So any other questions, thoughts, ideas that came out of your, oh, Grady, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
Well, I was, I hope I can be, I can't even see myself. We were in a breakout room and we were just talking about the significance and impact and importance of peer-to-peer education. So, and what that would look like is, while we can develop the list, absolutely great. Yet we also have to remember we're dealing with a populace of individuals that have been lied to, have been deceived, who don't have a lot of trust in the information they get from counselors. You know, is it out of date? Is it inaccurate? Oh, this is too good to be true. So in support of, just say if we could have someone like Deanne who goes in, and we, you know, one of us or the familiar face or someone that has done some time with that lived experience can say, hey, listen, here's what's available to you. Now you have that attention and you have that trust factor, you know, and so I don't know, and I know DOC has a lot of draconian policies which are being looked at now because I'm on that committee as well. But, you know, I think just something like that to go inside and give them that information and say, hey, this is legit. You know, because there's a lot of misinformation being floated around inside, and I'm talking county jail levels, as well as, you know, prisons.
Yeah, thank you for that, Grady. Excellent point. It sounds like another room was having a similar conversation. It is time. We're at time. And I have just a couple more things I want to say. So I'm sorry to have to kind of stop this conversation because I just feel like it's been so, I mean, just so much fantastic information and discussion today. But I just want to share a couple of announcements from the network, and then I want to give you all a few minutes before you dive into whatever you have to do at noon. I just want to share that there is a partnership that the Cities for Financial Empowerment Fund has created with Check Systems, because there are a lot of folks that have stuff that comes up on Check Systems, and financial institutions will not open accounts for them because of what's on there. And that can be a barrier even for BankOn accounts. And so they are working on a new partnership where they're going to be kind of clarifying some of the guidance around what on Check Systems really is fraud, what should be used in the risk assessment for financial institutions. And there's a webinar that is next Monday that's going to be discussing this. So I wanted to let you all know because I think this is very relevant. I just put the link in the chat so you can, if you're interested, take a look at that. It's Monday at 9 a.m. Pacific time. But I think that's another way to really look at, you know, how are we excluding folks? And there is research that tells us that Check Systems has very racially disproportionate outcomes for folks. So what does that mean? And how do we reduce that barrier for folks? The next thing is that the Financial Empowerment Network has been approached about convening some community conversations for folks that are financial coaches. We're still really in the planning phase and trying to figure out what that might look like, and really identifying like who is interested and who would like to participate in these convenings. And so if you are interested, please take the survey. We're hoping to do our first gathering in February. It'll be virtual, so it'll be on Zoom. And we're also looking for folks to help with the planning. So Mandy from United Way in Pierce County, who was on here, she's helping. Donna O'Connor from HopeLink, and James, whose name I'm blanking on, from Sound Outreach, James Taylor, I believe is his last name, from Sound Outreach. The four of us have been meeting, along with Zecora Banks from Verity Credit Union. So anyways, if you're interested in participating, oh, thank you, Mandy, James Taylor. Okay, So if you're interested in if you're doing financial coaching, or if you work with folks that are doing financial coaching, if you could share this information with them, we'd like to have a statewide community of folks that are kind of honing their practice together. And then the last thing, follow us on Facebook or LinkedIn. We're on LinkedIn now. I post there lots of stuff, announcements, information, resources. So please, if you're not there, join us. We'd love to have you. And that is it. Thank you to our panelists for presenting today. Such great information about the work you're doing. Thank you, Grady, for sharing your story with us, and for Anthony and Becky as well for sharing your expertise and knowledge and experiences as well. And thank you to all of you that joined us today for really sticking in and really robust participation and conversation. I really appreciate everyone being here. I know it's a very, very, very busy time of year, but thank you all. Have a wonderful afternoon, happy holidays, and hope to see you at our next events in 2022.
So from this side of the fence, I just want to say thank you to everyone. Thank you so much for the work you're doing. You don't hear those words enough. And I just want to let you know it's really appreciated, even by those that don't know they appreciate it. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Grady. You're amazing.